I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTrackYou.com, and today we're going to install the driven axle block sliders in our 2017 Yamaha R6 STG project bike. Okay, this is a pretty basic install. We're going to have that in the second part of this video. Steve's going to have all the steps outlined for you. Why would you install these? Well, number one, they look absolutely amazing, replacing those stock plain Jane axle blocks with these bitchin' driven axle blocks that also incorporate a replaceable slider. They're available in multiple colors. It's one of my favorite things about Driven is the colors they have available. At a time when so many other manufacturers stopped making anything of color and focused solely on black, my man over at Driven is still coming at us with all these amazing anodized colors. We went with red on the R6. Now, performance benefit. Having the slider back here is just, another point of contact. If you happen to have a wreck on the bike, it can help prevent the axle nut from touching down, different stuff. So that is one reason. There's a little performance benefit with installing it for sure. But man, they look amazing. Installing these on the R6, there's something I need to share with you. This is really important, okay? The R6, you're able to install the spools all the way at the rear or at a forward point. The spools, the standard spools for an R6 that install back here perfectly will not install in this forwardmost hole. The reason is the depth of the boss in relation to the swing arm. So, Driven has developed a special set of spools that are meant to be used if you intend to install their axle block sliders so that you're able to move the spools forward. So it's important that you understand that you need to pick both pieces up at the same time if you are using Driven spools. Step one is you get your spools installed in that forwardmost hole. You're going to have a rear stand. You can see I've got the bike lifted up right now with a pit bull and supported because we're going to have to pull the axle on the bike, and that's something that you need to be prepared for too. In order to install these, you will have to remove the axle. End of the day, it's a pretty basic install. Stay tuned, it's going to follow this. Okay, the first thing I want to show you with the Driven axle block slider install on the R6 is this. On the 17 R6, there are two bosses on the swing arm where you can bolt your spools on. Typically, I would install the spools back here. If you do that, and you're going to install the axle block sliders, you can clearly see that you're going to have negative interaction between the two because of the position of the axle block slider. It's going to be right over top of the spool. That is a no-go, so you're going to want to get the spools up here. That presents just one thing you need to know. It's not really a problem. If you're going to buy the axle block sliders, it's important that you buy the special set of spools that Driven has for the 17 and up R6 that will allow you to use the axle block slider and install them here, because the set of spools that fits in the rear does not have enough spacer to properly clear the swing arm if you use the forwardmost hole. So look for those. We've got them on the site. The way everything's put together, it's very clear. Make sure you pick those up as well. The install. You need to be able to lift the motorcycle from the rear and pull the axle. For that, we're going to use our spool rear stand, kick-ass pit bull pit through tire wedge. That's optional, but awesome because this is going to hold the wheel in place when I pull the axle. Crank that bad boy up. So you would have already installed the spools in the forwardmost hole. That is really important because if you go to do this back here, it's just not going to work out. You're not going to have the clearance. So remember to do that first. We are now going to remove the rear axle. This is also a great opportunity to get a chain adjustment in there. We won't do that in this video, but that's something I want you to look out for. Let's go ahead and get the axle pulled, like so. The tire wedge is going to hold that right there for me. You will be replacing this and this with the Driven pieces. Okay, little MPPL here from Maxima. spray it on a rag, and we're going to lubricate this axle before we put it back in. Just a thin coating. You can use grease as well, but the MPPL is really nice. The stuff's great. A little lighter weight as well. Get the axle block, the axle, slide the axle through, get it all lined up, push the axle through until that axle block is up against the swing arm. We'll come over to the other side, push that into place. We will reuse the stock washer as well as the stock axle nut. Okay, now I'm going to release pressure on that tire wedge. I'm going to take a wrench and I'm going to put it in between the rear sprocket and the chain, kind of roll forward so I got some tension. Smack it a couple of times. I want to make sure the axle blocks are held firmly up against the axle block adjuster. And once we do that, we'll be able to torque the axle nut back down. If you want to use a torque wrench here, go ahead and Google the torque spec, grab a torque wrench, torque it down if you're more comfortable with that. Now, important step. When you receive these, they're going to be disassembled. I had them on there only finger tight, the slider. I'm going to use just a touch of red thread locker on each one. We just want to make sure that they don't vibrate off. So you don't leave it laying on the road or somewhere on the track. We'll do that on both sides. As you can see, this is a pretty basic install. The biggest thing to understand is you're going to have to pull that rear axle all the way out. In order to do that, you should have a rear stand. Going to need spools to accommodate that as well on the R6. So just be ready for that. And remember, lube the axle before you put it through, whether you're using MPPL or you're going to use axle grease. Either way, it doesn't make any difference. Make sure you use a thin coating of something. And then, of course, perfect time to address the slack in the chain. That looks a little bit excessive, so normally we would have gone through that too, but we're going to be doing a chain kit on the bike, so I'm going to leave that alone right now. The parts look phenomenal on the motorcycle, no question. They're available in multiple colors, so you can add a pop of a color to the back of the bike, and they do serve a purpose. Having the slider back here, if you do happen to have a wreck, it's another slide point. It's going to help protect the axle nut, so on and so forth. But they look super bitchin'. In my mind, that is probably the best reason to put them on the bike. These are the driven axle block sliders installed on the 2017 STG R6 project bike.